certainly at the moment, because AI is more of a solitary space, it becomes a mirror to you. You start to hear your own voice reflected back at you in a much clearer form than working in traditional media and you have a team and it's much more diluted. Suddenly it's just you. You start to question your own reality and your own outlook in a way that you don't in traditional media, and that's both scary and inspiring. My name's Hal, also known as Edit 9. I'm a filmmaker, predominantly an editor, and have been for 25 years now. I set up Edit 9 as a way to distance myself from AI. There was a lot of friction from my colleagues, and I just wanted to play around with it. I was kind of both fearful and curious about it.
The BAFTA for the 4th emergency service goes to
the repair shop.
I think after winning the BAFTA, I could definitely die happy. It was a good mark of success, and I suddenly realized that actually I was kind of doing more harm than good by separating the two. All those ideas that you have, you can test them out straight away and you can make mistakes quicker. That costs money in production, and why most projects don't get off the ground is because you can't proof it. The Trials is a high concept sci-fi. The main protagonist is this young woman called Shona who lives with her dad, and they run a big game sanctuary on the African continent. It's about her dealing with the loss of her father, but it's also about this visitation by these beings that are from another world. They are challenging the Earth to a competition, a trial, in order to kind of judge our worth. Humans being humans, they assume that they are the recipient of this message and answer the call, but it is not for them. I think it's about the concept of control, basically, because I think it's a fallacy that I don't feel is healthy for humanity. We assume that we are center stage, and we assume that our actions are without consequence and that this will continue forever, and some kind of saving grace will come in and rescue us from whatever disaster we find ourselves in. And I think it's important to remember that we're not center stage. We are part of a system and a wider world. I think that was the kind of driving force behind the narrative.
They are gods, vengeful gods. And they want blood.
I always like to start with a script and working like that traditionally. So I will record the sync and I'll pick the music and I'll time it all out and I'll pace it all out just with text cards to get an idea of what we're going to be looking at and how it's going to feel in terms of speed and pace, and then kind of get it to a very rough assembly, and then I'll start generating the images. I went out to Lisbon and I worked with 2 concept artists called Ben and Camellia. It was a very organic process. We spent 4 days together. They did these sketches and drew up these very detailed drawings from all angles of these monsters. We built these creatures up from scratch, from concept art. I wanted natural anatomy, but I wanted it to feel like something that didn't exist on Earth. And so we explored how these things could feel totally alien. The first thing we decided was to remove their eyes, because that is something that is incredibly human. When I developed this arrival, this spaceship, I was like, maybe these things, they come from a world where there is no light. And so they kind of emerge out of this black smoke, and they have sensory systems that are different to our own. I also wanted to then include the post-production pipeline, traditional grade, dubs, sound design. It was a great way to, explore that human element of creativity and kind of remind me of why that is the most important part of the process. Working with other people, collaborating and coming up with a vision collectively that is unique. In terms of animation and in visuals, at the moment it's obviously Sea Dance and Kling. For generating this clip of Shona I got the start image through, generated with Nano Banana using my character references, fed this into the agent as the first frame, told it was the first frame, and then it can implement the shell prompt that I've already told it about, very handheld and cinematic shot, incredibly dynamic, along with all the shooting preferences, camera preferences, lighting preferences, and then you can iterate from there. So it can generate out a take. You can see what you like about it, see what you don't like about it, feed back to it. It gives you suggestions as well. And then you can just build up your video that way. And it will remember all of the references and everything that you've given it previously, so that it's kind of more of a back and forward fine-tuning process rather than just like re-rolling from scratch each time. The system in OpenArt I really enjoy because it lets you kind of step into the scene. It lets you step into a set that you've created. You give it that initial image and it lets you generate a world. And that is hugely powerful because that's just like being on set. You know, you can compose and choreograph and block out your scene right there in a 3D space. So a tool I used a lot was in video because I think that it has some unique aspects that I don't get from other tools. I enjoy the way that it's more iterative, so you can set a style straight away, so it always follows those guidelines, and then you don't have to worry about consistency, which is obviously a huge headache sometimes in AI. Brighton has always been an inspiration to me, not necessarily physically, but the vibe of the place and the people and the fact that it changes so consistently and adapts, constantly have an influx of young people exploring, you know, they're free for the first time, and so that energy gets fed into the city constantly. I think it's taken me back to when I was like 13, 14 and I had 27 books on the go. Although it's pretty depressing throughout, I think that actually the message and what the world will continue to be after is optimistic and exciting, and there'll be hope. I think what I'd like viewers to sit with is the idea that there's a wider world. We're very good at creating subtext and subworlds and sub-realities in everyday life. You know, we are incredibly adept at creating stories that justify our actions. And I think it's important to remember that there is a whole world going on around us that is not online and is not virtual or digital. It's real and it's not guaranteed forever.
Come on. I know you can do it.
Working with Wonder has been probably the best experience in AI that I've had because it's given me that thing that's been missing from AI, which is collaboration and input and other voices. Having other people's input, other people's perspective is essential to making a film. I think a film should be made by a family, by a crew, by a team that contributes all their voice, all their life experience, all their aspects, all their hopes, because then it is accessible by more people and more people connect with it and the audience take more from it. And that's what, you know, that's what we all want from a story, is connection, because then that gives us meaning, both for the audience, but also for the creator. And I think that's why we're all doing this. We're all telling stories to find meaning and connection.